Okay, friends, welcome back to our online Bible study in the Gospel of John. Today we're starting something new. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to be in chapter 6. And what we're going to see in chapter 6 is that chapter 6 is it's a tremendously important chapter, but also a tremendously difficult chapter. I'm filming this on Friday before you're going to get it on Monday. So in Dallas, we're supposed to get some bad weather this afternoon. So we're preparing for these storms. And that's kind of fitting because chapter 6... there's trouble on the horizon. In fact, by the end of chapter 6, what we're going to see is that some people have decided they're no longer going to be following after Jesus. This is kind of a chapter where folks have to decide, am I really all in on this or not? So we're going to get to some of that stuff, and most of that will be in weeks later. But this week, we're honing in on this first story in chapter 6, which is the feeding of the 5,000. So I want to set that up, and then we're going to do a lot with that this week. So with the feeding of the 5,000, it's one of just a few stories that actually is found in all four of the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now you get the main stuff in all four, especially near the end of Jesus' life. They all have the crucifixion. They all have the resurrection, the main two things. And then scattered throughout the stories of his life, you get some things, though not many, that all four gospel writers say, hey, this is important enough that I want to include this, because of course they all have to decide what they do and don't include. You can't tell all of his story in these short gospels. They all include the feeding of the 5,000. What I want to point out here is something that is different about John's account. And one of the things that's different is right here in the first verse. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Well, some of you have been around for a while know this, that what the other side of the Sea of Galilee is the east side of Galilee, and that is an area that is not a Jewish area. Some of the Decapolis cities are there. The Decapolis cities were 10 Greek Roman cities that were there, and that region was pagan. They worshipped other gods. They were certainly pledging their allegiance to Rome. They were not Jewish areas. So Jesus goes over there. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the feeding of the 5,000 does not take place on that side. It takes place in a Jewish area. For John, it takes place there, which leads us to something else that's very, very different. In the other three accounts, one of the disciples notices that there's this crowd and they're hungry, and they say, Jesus, you should send them away. They got to go eat. In all of the other accounts, it's one of the disciples that notices that. But look at this. In John's account, verse 5, lifting up his eyes, this is Jesus, then, and seeing that a large crowd was coming towards him, Jesus said to Philip, where are we to buy bread so these people may eat? And then they go on, you read the rest of it, he ends up feeding them. But it's interesting that it's only in John's account that it's Jesus who notices the problem, who notices that these folks need to eat. And I think that it has everything to do with where this is set. The disciples, when they're in this Jewish area, they recognize that these other Jews, that they need food. There's both the physical, like a literal issue there, they're hungry, but more importantly, the metaphorical, the spiritual issue. Look, Jesus, they need you, they need what you have. But when they're in this pagan area, they probably are wondering why Jesus even has them over there. It's Jesus who notices that these folks need food. And even more importantly, I think, that these folks need what he has to offer on a spiritual level. I think that the disciples are shocked at this point to find that Jesus' ministry is to more than just the Jewish people, but that his ministry is going to expand and include all people. Over there, hanging out with these silly pagans. I mean, the disciples probably just waiting to get back to their side of the lake. He says, no, we're going to stay here. These people also need food. These people also need what I have to offer. And I think that this is one of the many things that happens in chapter 6 that people are surprised by, and that it causes some people to say, we're out. They're not the 12 main disciples, but we're going to see other people around him say, I can't go all in on this. So as we start this journey in chapter 6, let me just ask you this. Are there ways that you disagree with Jesus? I mean, really, like with his teachings, things that he does. Are there things that you disagree with? I think it's important to own those, to recognize those. And then on the far side of wrestling with the things that maybe you disagree with Jesus around, to say, but am I still all in? Am I still all in? Which means if you're a follower of Jesus, to say, I may disagree with Jesus on this, but I'm going to go with Jesus instead of me. I'm going to trust that his opinion on this is better than my opinion. So as we get started, the overarching question is, are you still all in? But for today, how do you disagree with Jesus? And how do you reconcile that disagreement? And when you find yourself disagreeing with Jesus, do you tuck tail and run? Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to keep following him. I trust him on this more than I trust me on this. Dig into his teachings. Think about some of the things that you've heard that he teaches. Some of them are hard. Can you own that they're hard and say, but I still believe them? God bless you, friends. Keep with the reading, and we'll see you soon.